LastPass just asked to save the stream key. No, I don't want you to save the stream key.
It looks for any password field, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Back at it again.
Are we live?
Yeah, we're live.
Just doing our usual little start the stream a little bit early for the hardcore fan.
We got some minutes for the hardcore.
I probably should say hardcore fans, but you know, I figure let's be realistic here.
There is one viewer currently.
I just coughed. I've got Rona.
Oh no.
That one viewer might just be me. Oh no, actually I don't have YouTube open, so credit where credit is due. It's probably not me.
I'm pretty sure it just went to 0.
Oh, they're like, no, having none of this.
You just made a Corona joke. Unsubscribe.
Yeah, how dare you? Look, if you can't laugh at it, you got to cry at it. So, I did just see some interesting news. Apparently, RDP exposed to the internet is up. So
yeah, I read that as well.
Interesting. I think it's because places, you know, there's people in places, like, especially you could imagine a lot of small business where working from home would be possible, but they don't necessarily know how to set up a VPN, or they can't, or the person needs their actual computer. And there are ways to expose RDP via gateways. I think Citrix has a product that lets you do it. So you expose RDP on your computer. Then you land on a Citrix app server that does something, and it can do RDP to that server for you. But I wouldn't be putting my computer straight out to the internet.
Especially not a work one. My sister said a similar thing to me today. She was asking about AnyDesk. So they got told to put AnyDesk free on their work computer so they could work from home. Just remote in like that.
I suppose if it's a proper solution meant for it, when you see things that are really meant to be like support tools and they're being corralled into remote access, I kind of get a bit sus. The other challenge, I suppose, is tools that are where you've got a man in the middle, so you're going via another service. Even if it's just for brokering, there's always some extra exposure there. So
yeah, I think with this one, you just install like an agent on your computer, and then you install a client on your other computer and just connect in. It'd be like TeamViewer, I guess.
I mean, you can secure RDP. All right, there's decent. You can get it doing TLS and decent ciphers, and you can even do cert-based auth. But no one's going to be setting any of that up. They're just going to be running whatever the defaults are, and they're not going to worry about.
Yeah.
It's had its problems in the past, and you're down to the quality of the person's username and password, which
typically is not great.
Yeah, I mean, VPNs aren't that hard to set up. If you've got someone mildly technical and a spare computer to run a VPN server on, but you know, there are places. A friend of mine, his wife works at a place where they're a small business, but they're nothing on the cloud. So to get access to anything, you have to be on the network and domain joined. So
yeah, okay. Which, I mean, there's still plenty of businesses working that way.
I wonder how this is going to work with. Oh yeah, some of it may be misconfigured. There's good old Benjamin Franklin's on.
Yay!
There we go. There's the fan that we came on early for.
Yeah.
Well, I say fan. He's not really a fan. He's a professional critiquer.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Securing a VPN isn't necessarily trivial either.
Well, it's more that there's products now that. So like,
if you're trying to build and configure your own rather than use a off-the-shelf product.
There's stuff that'll drive OpenVPN and WireGuard to give you relatively secure, like, defaults. But I guess the problem is issuing credentials. I always use OpenVPN with certificates, but you know, other people might not. They might just use username and passwords, which Problem with the username and password is you can always guess them. I wonder how this is going to go for like pen testers that are meant to be on site. Beg your pardon, where lockdown, and I certainly know there were some pen test companies that had, like, the pen tester had to go into 2 weeks of quarantine before they could visit a client site, and 2 weeks of quarantine on the other end, and guaranteed the customer was paying for the 2 weeks either side to be on site. So imagine, like, I had a very awkward conversation that involved me going, you're going to have to send the pen tester a laptop and give them a user account and set up the VPN. And by the way, it has to have admin access on it so that they can install the tools they need. So certainly changing times, like plenty of need for pen testing, but just the way we do things is shifting a little bit.
Yeah.
At least for the time being. Yeah, you're right. Off the shelf can be terrible, Ben.
It's the same with anything, though. There's always a mix of good and bad.
So can some of the automation that tries to configure it all.
Exactly. Like just randomly pulling a script off Stack Overflow can also be good or bad.
You know what this turns out? It turns out security's hard. There's no easy answers.
Well, who would have thought?
There is. Just make it secure, but there's no easy implementations.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, Mark. What else is going on? We're also back to our usual actually streaming something technical. Last week was a one-off, just randomly doing some Borderlands and attempting to talk about security news.
Didn't go
well. But obviously my sniper rifle meta just hurt too many brains, so...
Pretty much.
What's we got?
Yeah, so this week we're doing some mobile reversing. We're going to take a really simple mobile app, decompile it, have a look at some code, see if we can figure out what's going on, and maybe solve a challenge. Pretty much. That's the plan for today. And then maybe in the next couple of weeks we'll take it a bit further. Like we might look into actually debugging or patching execution flow and things like that. Yeah. I mean, we might as well get into it. It's 8 now.
It probably is a good time to start.
Yeah. Let me just figure out how I transition this like that. Except that is... Oh man, my scene is completely screwed. What's going on here? There we go.
For context, we use OBS to do this streaming, and sometimes we often don't really clean up our scenes, and so it just ends up being a bit of a mess.
It just like shifted the whole capture frame for some reason. Anyway, it's fixed now.
Oh well.
So, if you care or want to follow along, we're doing this OWASP mobile security testing guide. I think that's what MSTG means. They're just little uncrackable Android apps, and we're only doing level 1 to start with, because we'll run through, I guess, basically the setup, how to get started, what tools to use, and then we'll just solve a quick and easy challenge and move on later. So
I guess our way of we didn't look at any of the solutions, so our way of solving this might be unorthodox compared to their solutions.
Well, I don't even know what Frida is, so we didn't use that. We kind of do some static analysis stuff. We don't use JDB. Again, we don't use Frida, and we don't use Exposed. So we're probably going to do it very differently to any of those solutions. But we'll start off by downloading the APK. If you know anything about mobile stuff, an APK is basically an app file. Copy link location.
So it's related to like... So I did a bit of research, and they're more related to deb files than they are jar files. So as far as I can tell, they actually get uncompressed, and the various components are put into the file system. So unlike jar files. So Android, the language you'd use to develop in. So there's a few different layers. So you've got the actual language you might write in, which, I mean, I think there's things that let you write in one language and then compile over to others now, but effectively you write in Java. And then that gets compiled down into a bytecode format called DEX,
Yep.
which I think might stand for Dalvik executable. So Dalvik used to be the runtime for Android. It's now something called ART, or the Android runtime. Um, so Dalvik used to be your traditional sort of bytecode VM. It would sit there and read instructions on the fly. There was some level of just-in-time, forward-looking stuff to try and speed stuff up, but they ended up replacing it with something that basically does an in-place compile of the DEX to an ELF file. So under the hood, it's all deep down. There's a Linux kernel compiled to run on whatever chipset your phone is, normally ARM or ARM. Above that, you might have some various abstraction layers and stuff like that, so that hardware manufacturers can change stuff and OS manufacturers don't have to keep writing new drivers for everything, and then app libraries and whatnot. So,
I just remembered that I realized that you're probably talking about the diagram, so I just stuck it up.
Sweet. I can't. Oh wait, YouTube's got a bit of a lag. That's
so
right.
That's kind of what the stack looks like.
It's
the architecture
a bit
stack, not the like code runtime
so it's
stack.
As you can see, it's really well drawn.
Quality stuff.
I definitely wanted to make sure no one could go, "Hey, that's my guy."
You stole that from me.
Just draw my own. So you still have the that ART thing, still a virtual machine. So Android doesn't have some of the issues, at least with apps from the App Store, that you might get on a normal computer, because some of the low-level functionality an app might try and abuse just doesn't exist. So sometimes there are really bad vulnerabilities with Android apps that take advantage of lower-level things down in those kind of low-level hardware management libraries or image rendering or whatever. But most of the time you're dealing in I think user space. You're not only when you root.
Yeah.
And then and then your app plays around up the top in Appland. Moving on.
So we've downloaded our app. A few things before we get started. We're going to need the JDK, which comes installed default with if you install the Kali Jumbo or Large or whatever it's called, the one that includes basically everything. Kali already comes with it. Otherwise, you'll have to look up how to manually do it, because I didn't have to. We're also going to use a tool called the Android Developer, or Android Code, or whatever it's called. Android Studio, that's it.
Android Studio. So the Android Developer.
Yeah, the Android I got Visual Studio stuff confused. So you used to be able to just download the Android SDK directly and install and run that and build your own or run your own emulators or other things a lot easier. But now it's sort of all bundled and you have to download Android Studio to do it all. So
I was looking at trying to set this up. I've got an old Nexus 5X that I'd rooted a couple of years back. And I was going to try and use that, but I need to stick a different operating system on it because the one that's on there is a bit buggy. So I didn't end up doing it with an actual phone. But this is all possible with an actual phone. And, what are they called? The Android platform tools. So
yeah, exactly. So you can this APK directly, and pretty much any other APK you might download, you can install directly onto your Android phone. You can't do it. I mean, you kind of can with iOS, but you need to do a bunch of extra steps to sort of trust unsigned apps and change some permissions and things like that, because Apple don't like you installing anything that's not on the App Store. So that's sort of why we're doing Android. This Android Studio also comes with sort of a built-in emulator, so we don't have to necessarily worry about trying to stream our phones or anything like that at the same time. We can just do it all in one place, which is nice. And yeah, so that's it. Download, install, run, all that stuff. We're also going to need a tool called Jadix. Odroid have an Android OS. That's true. There's heaps of other like emulator tools and products and things like that. But
I was just going to install the AOSP kind of standard version, because the Apple OS that's still on my phone is the original Nexus one that I rooted, and I don't think it liked being rooted. So,
it's because it's normal latency. That's why it's so delayed.
That's fine.
That's my bad.
Anyway, let's continue.
Okay, so first things first, we want to dive into some code. So there's a few different tools we can use to do all of this. First one is, we could do it in Ghidra, but it's a bit kind of funny. We can open it directly in Android Studio, which I don't think I have an alias for. So it's not called Android Studio. Oh, where did I put it?
Does it happen to be raining in Queensland right now?
I don't think so.
Oh, I thought I heard rain. It's just noise.
Oh, no, it's probably just my laptop spinning up going, no, please don't run Android Studio.
Yeah, if you've ever cruised Programmer Humor on Reddit, you'll see memes about Android Studio and its efficient use of your computer. Efficient by way of it uses everything it absolutely can. So,
yes, I'm pretty sure you just run Studio directly. I only did this the other day and I've already forgotten. Okay, that's how we do it. So yeah, it's super simple. You just download the zip and extract it and run this. Problem solved.
Problem solved.
Oh, your laptop. Yeah, it's my laptop fan.
Yeah.
Because...
No, he doesn't live beside a runway. It's just...
The microphone isn't even that close either.
It's how loud they are. They're powerful fans, man.
It's a hot little laptop. It is actually burning up a bit. Okay. Is this running? And of course, it remembers everything that we were doing, which is always fun. So let's just create a whole new project. Actually, we don't want to create a whole new project.
There's a bunch of extra noise coming through.
Is there?
Yeah, I think it's your laptop fans.
Oh no. I don't know if I can do anything about that.
Oh, good.
I can move the microphone further away. Maybe over here.
That's better.
That's better?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we don't want to create or run or use a project because that's sort of a source code project. What we actually want to do is profile or debug an APK directly. I've already downloaded I cloned the whole repo before, so we're just going to run straight up with that APK. Say create a new one, that's fine. Let it open and do its thing, and it'll probably open just all this stuff that I already shut before. So now we can see that it's already gone through, taken the APK, and like you said, sort of just unzipped it and given us a lot of the code. The problem with Android Studio, like you were saying, is it by default decompiles it into that DEX language or DEX instructions. So this is almost like the mobile equivalent of
or the Android runtime, the Android runtime equivalent of assembly. So it can be a bit hard to kind of make sense of. There's another tool that can show you it more of a Java format.
Yeah, so I think
generally
there is like a plugin in here apparently that can do it as well, but because I don't think I've set it up, we're going to use this JetX GUI, which is another tool that comes with Kali. So again, we browse straight to the APK, and this time what we get is something that looks more like, actually let's go to the main app, something that looks a lot more like Java code. Before we do that though, let's take a look at, if we're treating this almost like a pen test or an engagement or whatever, first thing we want to do is try and run the app, see what it does, and maybe go from there. So in Android Studio, the way you do that is you have to actually set up an AVD, which is a like Android virtual device. So I've already created one that matched Reese's phone because I didn't know what else to pick, and I figured it would be lower spec than like a Google Phone 3 or something. So we tell it which APK we want it to run and which device we want it to simulate, click the play button, and wait.
Yes.
Because it's running in a VM that's not necessarily super well spec'd, it's pretty slow.
It's not fast. Look at that. Oh, lightning. Lightning. That runs almost as well as my actual Nexus 5X.
maybe it is actually an accurate simulation.
It's such a PowerPoint slideshow.
If I picked a faster phone, maybe it would actually load faster.
Yeah, it's just like, if instruction complete, sleep 5 seconds. I mean, actually, I think because we use Teams to screen share, so I can see what Jake's doing, and that has a lower frame rate than YouTube, so it's not as bad as I thought it was.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
Those animations are kind of smooth.
So yeah, I mean, if you run this natively or on a higher spec machine, or give the AVM some higher specs, it'll probably AVD higher specs, it might run quicker. But basically all we've got is an uncrackable app with an input box asking for a secret string, and we say, is those guys the secret string? Wait for it to catch up and realize that I've been typing. Click verify, and nope, that ain't it. So yeah, that's sort of the app. We know that it works, we know that it runs, our emulator is all set up, everything's good. We don't really know how to read any of this code, so rather than figure out what this is doing, even though we can see there's some secrety looking strings there, we're going to jump back to JetX, wherever that went, here.
So this is like, if you think about this is a bit like what it's like pen testing something you've never dealt with before. So it's funny, you can prepare as much as you want and have as many skills as you want as a pen tester, but you might land something legacy or something in a language you've never looked at before or a technology you've never seen. And so sometimes to achieve the outcome you want, you have to figure out any possible way to do it. So
exactly,
this is where we start to take probably, I don't know, there's plenty of people who might take this approach, but it's less conventional than probably your normal mobile app. I'm going to try and abuse this thing approach.
Exactly, yeah. And we are not Java devs. Like, we know enough about Java and how it works, and we can read the syntax and follow the syntax enough. But I am in no way a Java dev.
I've been a Java dev, but I just don't know any of the Android weirdness overlay that you might get.
I've been a Java dev in the past, and we did Java at uni and all that kind of stuff, but I wouldn't say that, you know, I could rebuild this app if someone told me to. So, looking at the main activity stuff, It does, I guess, some initial setup stuff for the app, setting some titles, creating alerts, that kind of thing. It looks like it's got root protection. So if you try and run this on a rooted device, it will probably do something. Either it calls A, so it'll create an alert with root detected, this is unacceptable, and then exits. So if we wanted to, when we get round to our app patching stream, I've seen Reese's Java. When we get to the like patching and recompiling stream, we might go through bypassing root detection and then also bypassing the input stuff.
I did it once years ago on the Sydney Trains app to so that I could use it on a rooted Android device. In that case, it wasn't particularly difficult. You just had to change a true to a null, and all of a sudden it would work like you'd expect. So sometimes
it looks like that's literally what we could do here as well.
Yeah, sometimes it's really simple. Other times it's a bit more involved.
Oh yeah, I'm sure there's like obfuscation libraries and all sorts of things to do root detection in a complex way that makes it non-trivial to just delete a piece of, like, delete an if statement.
Sometimes one of the practices is you stick root checks everywhere so that it's so hard to get rid of them.
Yeah. Not just on load.
Yeah. Anyway,
from there we can see that we've actually got our verify function, which takes our input field and then creates a dialog box, which was the nope that we saw. And if a.a object returns true, we get a success, and otherwise we get our failed message. So looking at a.a, because it's referenced locally, we're looking at this A in the decompiler. So this decompiler, well, either the code was written like this, or in the same way that Ghidra just makes up function names and variable names and things like that, these have just been made up on the fly. Now looking in our A class, we can see that there's a couple of byte arrays and a string. Then we've got our byte array calls another function somewhere and does a base64 decode on this string, which we're going to steal and do the same thing. So over in a terminal that's not screwed, we're just going to echo, and you can see I've already done it. Just echo it straight out to the terminal. And what we get back is garbage. So
which means that's probably encrypted.
It means that, this base64 text isn't necessarily our secret or our key or anything like that, just simply base64. We're going to have to do a bit more work to figure out what our secret message is. Moving on, it does try and do a bunch of stuff. It looks like we're using AES, and if the string that's passing in, which we know from back here is the string that we entered into the input field. So if that string matches this bar, talk like a pirate day.
Bar.
If our string equals this string, then it'll return a true, otherwise it'll return a false. Now it doesn't look like, if we look at our string, it doesn't call B on this instance of string, so we can ignore all of this stuff. It doesn't look like it does anything to encrypt our string and compare the encryptions, like the encrypted text. It is comparing, hopefully, two raw values, which means that in here somewhere, we've got enough information to also recreate the raw value.
So this is a classic example of encryption keys in code.
Yes, essentially.
Well, that's what we suspect anyway. At this stage, our running theory is uh, that string 2, so the 8D12768, that is the key, and the that bit there, the base64, is actually our flag or ciphertext.
Yes,
It's just
exactly.
base64 to make it compatible with uh, things that don't like displaying funny binary values.
Yep. So, looking at what this function does to figure out how all of this stuff is encrypted or how we can potentially reverse it, we just basically follow the code structure. So we got SG, vantage point, then we need 3 A's, which is AAA, and we're passing in 2 parameters. Our first parameter is B, which is this function down here of this string, and then the second argument is our base64 decoded text. That's the wrong one, this one. Looking at this code now, we're starting to get into the crypto cipher stuff. So we're using a secret key spec, which in Java land is basically just like the crypto libraries that you might use in Python or anything else.
So when we were looking at it, so secret key spec is a so depending on the language, there's all sorts of different implementations of things. But in Java land, you need to tell it what algorithm the key is specifically for. So in this case, it's saying this key is used for AES, electronic code book, which ECB. There's another weakness. You don't want to use ECB. You want to use what's the other one? CBC. Because ECB is pretty weak if you encrypt an image with it, and then you just look at that image, that encrypted image, block for block, you can kind of see the original image. The colors are just messed up. And then PKCS is to do with padding. So when there's missing data, padding things out to be the same length so that each block can be encrypted. So ECB doesn't. So whereas CBC takes the value from the previous block and incorporates it into the next block as the what's called the IV or initialization value, which means as you go on, things get more and more permutated and there's less and less. So that way you don't have to, you're not just masking the original thing with something else that looks a hell of a lot like the original thing. You're actually permutating it up. That's why ECB is not so great because it's fairly
and this
static.
doesn't use that initialization vector either of value.
No, it doesn't need one.
Yeah, which is good.
So yes, so when you're sending your passwords to me, make sure you use ECB.
So we basically create an instance of our cipher class object, whatever you want to call it in Java language, and then we initialize it and then do final, whatever that does, which we're assuming here is basically taking, so we know that our first argument is our key, our second argument is our encrypted text, so we've created an AES object with our key, and this do final we're assuming is decrypting the text and returning it. Sound good?
Yep.
Sounds logical to me. From there, all of this stuff is only if something fails here.
So do final. So it's going to say do final. There's another function called update, which isn't being used. So update is where you keep passing data into the encryption objects buffer, and then you call do final, and it'll go and process everything. Whereas do final is just a one shot. Here is some data. So that's
okay. That makes sense. And then we've got some exception stuff, just printing out if something goes wrong. But otherwise, we just do a straight comparison to our bar.
I really like the way they're catching that exception as well. That's why I like to catch exceptions. Just catch everything.
Just catch everything. That's a good way of doing it.
It's Java. You basically have to stick an exception around everything from memory.
Yeah, I think the compiler at compile time, I think if you don't try catch just about everything, it has a bit of a hissy fit and won't
Pretty sure,
compile.
I'm pretty sure it was a compiler setting you could disable it so
Oh
that it
yeah, it's
would.
something you can disable.
Anyway,
Anyway,
moving on to the good bit.
moving on to the good bit. So basically, the way that we started off with this, or the way that I was going to start off with this was, where'd it go? Did I close it? Yeah. So take sort of all of this and all of this, mash it into an online. Oh, I didn't leave the tab open. Mash it into like an online Java sort of IDE compiler thing and try and get it to just print this. But because it uses some non-standard, I think it was just the website I was using didn't have like the crypto libraries and stuff like that.
So Javax is a
So
specific
I
Java.
couldn't import the stuff that I needed, so I just couldn't be bothered. So we moved on to basically recreating what this app does, but in Python. And rather than use the terminal like a noob, we're going to use PyCharm. And again, it's probably going to just remember my last project, isn't it? Yeah. So let's start with the first one. The first one that didn't work, we shamelessly stole from Stack Overflow somewhere when I Googled
And then
AES CBC decrypt.
and then I
ECB
helped them
decrypt.
convert the Python 2 to Python 3.
Yeah, it was in Python 2, so we converted it to Python 3 and it doesn't work. The second time, I think we found a different one, a different decrypt function, which also didn't work. So then I just went back to like a standard how to encrypt and decrypt like tutorial with ECB and basically came up with, so you have your ciphertext in our case it's base64 encoded as well, so we got to decode that. We've got our key, which is in hex bytes, and then all we do is, in a similar way to how the Java one creates a new cipher instance with the key and the mode, in Python world all we have to do is say mode ECB. It doesn't really care about, or I didn't read enough up about it caring about padding and all of those other options.
A lot of the Python stuff often assumes reasonable defaults. So yeah.
And then you literally just call cipher.decrypt. And we get
Another
some plain
gotcha
text.
with the crypto.cipher you see up the top. You actually want to get, it's called PyCrypto.
Yes.
Not
so
crypto.
when you do your
So
pip install, it's called PyCrypto.
So Jake learned a little lesson yesterday that package names in pip aren't always the same as the library name in an import statement. So
even though there is one called crypto, if you pip install crypto, one does exist. It just doesn't have these functions.
You probably got hacked.
I just got hacked. Yeah, my VM got hacked. So we run what I call it decrypt 3, and it runs through, takes our key, decodes our text, and I think all of this is just the extra padding that it's added. But pretty much if we use the text, I want to believe, in our little app, where's Android Studio gone? You ready to watch a slideshow again?
Oh yeah. That lightning fast mobile performance, man.
Oh, I'll put it in the middle of the screen. Pew, pew, pew.
I'm sure I've legit had at times phones that performed this way.
I mean, yeah, I think when we get to the point of like actually debugging and like patching and recompiling, I might do that on native Windows. I don't know. We'll see.
Fair
I'll
enough. We'll see if I can
I'll do it in the VM
get.
first and see how performant it
Well, so
is, and
there's
if it's crap,
that
I'll just run it somewhere else.
the Android tools have or the platform tools have functionality to be able to mirror the screen. So I'm going to see if I can get this working on a mobile device, and we can.
Yeah, okay, just run it
Yeah,
and load it manually
yeah.
there. Yeah, that could work too. So now we've got our app. Does copy paste work? Oh no, it does not like that. I think I just killed it.
Oh no!
I press Control
How about
V.
that?
So apparently Control V kills the emulator. Can I minimize that so I get the casing right at least? Alright, there we go. Come back, little app. Oh, it's only the I that's capital.
And now we wait. Yeah.
Now we wait again. I know, such a noob.
It's funny because on YouTube, the bit where you are, because I'm watching it on YouTube as well, the bit where you Control V just happened.
Yeah, I didn't realize that I had to put it on low latency every time.
I normally don't bother about it.
Control C wasn't enough.
Yeah. Oh well, don't mess it up this time, Jakey Bakey.
No, I'll just type it in manually. Then you can watch how delayed the the app is to catch up to my typing. Ready?
Whoa, dude, don't type that fast.
Dun 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 dun.
I remember in PowerPoint for like school assignments, you'd always put like the text animation on typewriter, and it'd be like.
It is still thinking.
Oh wow, that is.
Come on, I've typed the whole sentence already. Or can you not buffer that much? Maybe it. Do I risk it?
So type 2 and see what happens. Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Yay!
Yes.
And we've done it. So this was more of a crypto challenge than anything else, but it also got us to a point where we can decompile and emulate an app to the point where if we need to, we can sort of make a few changes, recompile, debug if we set up Android Studio properly. So yeah, that was sort of all that I had planned for the stream. I thought it would take longer than it did, but apparently it only takes about half an hour.
Quick stream's a good stream, like a nice punchy, we did something.
Yeah, so I mean, this is everything you need to really do sort of mobile app decompiling stuff. I know that on Androids you can get tools and apps and other things. I don't think you need to root your phone to export an APK directly, like if you download something from the store. On iOS it's a lot different and harder, and maybe we'll go into that in another series because this does have iOS apps as well, so maybe we'll do that as well. But yeah, I'm pretty sure, I mean, I don't use Android very much, but I'm pretty sure you can just export an APK on any phone, can't you? Or do you have to be rooted to do that?
I'm not sure.
I don't know.
I've always done it from a rooted phone, so.
Yeah, okay. There might be tools or software or like local software that you can use to plug your phone in and extract it or something. Anyway. Yeah, that's kind of it. Next week will be probably a bit more interesting because we'll actually change and patch in some logic flow into the app. So maybe we'll do like some bypass and root detection, and if we can get your phone mirroring and things like that, we can demo, running it on your rooted phone so that we trigger this alert, and then patch the code so that it bypasses this alert, and then maybe patch this function to just allow any user input to trigger the success message, something really basic like that. Which, like, this is a pretty good example for showing some basic fundamental, I guess, techniques for decompiling, patching, recompiling, and then rerunning or emulating an APK. That's it.
Yeah.
Really.
Cheers, guys.
Hopefully you learn something, and hopefully we keep providing some good entertainment for Ben and Mike.
Indeed.
That's
Thanks,
it.
guys.
We'll talk to you later. Bye.